E30 than house.
Yes. All right. Here we go. Welcome to episode 198 of Auto Hot Topic. Hello, Brad. What's going on?
You know what that means?
What's that?
We have 2 weeks to come up with an idea for our special 200th episode.
I was just thinking about that. I do have an idea. I need to execute on it.
Is 2 weeks enough time?
It is enough time because the way I'm going to do it, I'll probably have to do it during the day, and you might not be involved in that part, but you'll be involved in the episode overall. So I'll tell you later.
Well, it makes sense to not include me in the 200th episode. I know my standing.
You're fired.
Move away, move on out. Come on now. Get out of here. No use for you anymore. We have a new co-host. His name is Marco, and he's in training.
Yeah. Doesn't talk too well right now.
No, but he'll make some noises as long as you put him under his mobile.
Yeah.
Mobile?
Mobile? I don't know.
His spinny toy thing.
Yep. All right. I do have some Project Car updates.
Oh, excellent. It's been a while since you've touched anything.
We talked about my Mousetrap Montero the other day.
Okay.
The other episode. I actually took the time to... I didn't have to take the intake tube off. It was just the lower half of the airbox, which is luckily very easy on those trucks. Just 3 bolts. Unbolted it. Dumped out all the house stuff that was in there. And then cleaned it with Simple Green, let it dry in the sun. Threw a fresh air filter in there, and it must have really been messing with it because the truck didn't want to idle at first with a clean air filter, and took a little bit, and even I'm touching the throttle at the throttle body, and it was it would stumble coming back to idle. And then I think the other day I hadn't really driven it yet. I went to start it, was letting it idle, and it just shut off. It just stalled.
This is post fix?
Yeah. I
wonder, does it have a learning?
Toby too. So yeah, there's fuel trims and stuff, and
so maybe it learned how to compensate for the
yeah, I guess so.
Restricted flow, and it was burning itself out with too much fuel.
Something.
Yeah.
Or not enough.
Not enough fuel.
Not enough air, so it's less fuel. I don't know. Been driving around town, and it's sorted itself out. Definitely idles way better. It doesn't seem to want to stall, so
that's good.
Yeah,
we were
inadvertently tested out how clogged an air filter you can have on a vehicle.
Well, it's the second time we've done that. Remember when we were driving to New Jersey in my diesel truck, and it just felt sluggish?
Oh, yeah.
And it turned out
I do remember that.
It was just a pretty clogged air filter. We pulled it out, put a new one in, and everything was fine.
Yeah, weird.
So it's weird. It's one of those things that you don't usually think about unless you're doing a tune-up. And on that particular vehicle, usually you do plugs, wires, cap, rotor, air filter. But obviously you don't do plugs, wires, cap, rotor on a modern diesel truck, or any diesel for that matter, obviously. And I just never, for some reason, thought to change the air filter ever when I was doing oil changes. So I was doing oil changes and fuel filter changes, and just completely overlooked something obvious like an air filter. And all of a sudden,
I usually do it once a year. But sometimes on cars you don't drive all the time, you don't think of it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Especially when they don't, I was barely at the mileage for a filter, 12 to 15,000 miles. I mean, some filters can go 30,000 miles, I think. But
it all depends on the driving conditions too. And I did a lot of off-road trips in that truck, so that probably didn't help.
I think on your truck too, I feel like when we looked at it, the little GM air filter indicator thing.
That's right too.
Was it's in the green or something.
Yeah, it's got a filter minder.
Yeah.
It turned out it was stuck.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what it was. I kept looking at that, and it was always yeah, everything's fine. So I was like, sweet, I don't have to do anything. But it turned out that it just hadn't moved in so long that it was just stuck in one place. So that's why it was always fine. But yeah, I remember because all of a sudden we were getting a noticeable drop in power and fuel mileage. I was like, this is not right.
Yeah.
This is not weird. And we were very ill prepared. We even had to buy a screwdriver at the parts store, like 150 miles
Oh
away.
yeah, because this stupid GM, it doesn't have a clips. It's
Yeah.
like it was either like Torx or like Phillips or something.
I
It's
think it
really
was a
annoying.
standard Phillips head, but we just didn't have anything with us because we weren't doing anything that, I was driving my normal, everyday, modern vehicle. I wasn't expecting to need
No.
side of the road tools, and I didn't have them. So we had to buy an air filter and a screwdriver to get ourselves home.
Yeah.
But it's all good. That was a long time ago now.
Yeah, that was going to pick up the U frame for my
Yeah, it was
WRX.
the beginning of the saga of the WRX suspension pieces. That was a while
Hmm.
ago. That was like 2 years ago, probably, right?
Yeah, I put those together in 2018 around December.
So going on 2 years ago, almost. I remember it
Yeah.
was cold out. So anyway, change your air filters.
Yeah.
Hot tip from your friendly car podcast that doesn't do the basic maintenance, like change their air filters. Apparently,
Hmm.
have you done anything else? Have you succeeded in fixing all the stuff on the Galant?
No, I haven't welded that yet. I just haven't had a chance. Been doing other stuff.
Well, the good news is your kitchen's
And
almost done, so that's the main thing.
yeah, and the Glant, there's no major events I need it for, so there's not really a rush to do it.
I feel like there's not even any minor events.
No. Although, quick aside to events, there was Southern New Hampshire Cars and Coffee last Sunday. I did end up going. I took the Talon because that's the other thing. I have two cars to drive now, fun cars, and I hadn't driven the Talon much in the last couple of years, so I might as well use that instead. So I took that. Met up with a couple friends, and it was pretty busy there. A couple of good, some like really interesting cars, a lot of the usual stuff, but it's cool. It's in a different location, but it's easy to get to. It was a nice back road drive we took. It was like a super hot day, so it was good that it was early. I think we didn't even stay till 11 because it was just starting to get hot by 10 o'clock.
Right.
But the back roads, shade covered, moving through the air, it's not too bad. I know Jordan took the spaghetti rally car, but he said it was really hot. But of course, things got no interior, so
Right.
no insulation from any of the engine heat. So, oh well. But it was cool. Got a lot of attention from people. They really dug it. So,
Excellent. Yeah, it's always cool to show up in an actual caged race car. Usually,
mm-hmm.
it brings a crowd.
Have you done anything?
Yeah, I did. I'm sure our listeners are now used to me not following through on actual plans and changing plans all the time.
It's fine.
I mean, I guess I kind of did follow through. I
You're
said,
still working on the same vehicle, though. You didn't give up on it and buy a different one.
well, last time I said that I was going to either sell it or buy a used engine for it, whichever happened first. Well, neither happened. I didn't really put a lot of effort into selling it. I did put a post up talking about selling it, but I didn't actually do much more than that. So I decided to take the engine apart because I was like, you know what? Maybe there's something obvious. Maybe there'll be a smoking gun when I pull the head off, and we'll be able to know why there's no compression in cylinder number 2. So I said, damn the torpedoes. I'm going to take it apart. So I took it apart. There's no smoking gun immediately visible. Everything looks fine. At first, I thought that there was a valve that was stuck open, and then I realized the error in my ways. I hadn't actually fully removed the valve train. I just loosened it up, and then forgot to actually remove it. And once I removed it, obviously the valve closed like it should. So there's no issues there. There's no bent valves. I didn't hurt anything putting it together, which I was nervous that I did. And it's one of those things where you think you know what you're doing, but when something goes wrong, you question everything you did. So,
Oh, yes.
the good news is I didn't do anything wrong.
Okay.
There's no bent valves, no clearance issues. There was no problems with anything like that. So now the cylinder head is off, and just for the laugh of it, I said, "Well, I'll throw some Marvel Mystery Oil in cylinder number 1 and cylinder number 2 and cylinder number 3, because 3 was a little low on compression and 2 had like no compression." So I poured the Marvel Mystery Oil into those two cylinders,
Yeah.
and I'd say within about an hour, the the few ounces of it that were in cylinder number two were gone down the pan,
Yeah.
and cylinder number three still had almost as much as I had poured in there an hour before. So
Hmm.
it's not good. That's obviously a pretty loose fitment in there. That ring must be stuck or broken or something because there's no reason
I'd
for
say
that.
that's a pretty good indication that the rings have a leak.
Yeah, I
Just
mean
just
it.
because I've seen like junkyard engines with the head off after it rains, maybe they're rusted, but
See,
they're
I
holding
think
water in
they
there.
probably rusted together pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, Marvel Mystery Oil is slipperier and thinner than straight water, so maybe not thinner, but slipperier. But still, it shouldn't leak down like that, and it didn't leak down from number three nearly as fast. In fact, that took a full probably 24 hours before that was emptied out. So I think the difference is evident right there that that is obviously a problem. So
Yeah, it seems like a lot of blow by.
yeah, so I said, well, I don't know what to do now. I'll look harder for an engine because now I've taken the engine apart again. So now it's be even harder to sell it again.
Hmm.
So I just kind of hemmed and hawed over it, looked at some used engines, looked at some other options, because the 20R and the 22R are basically the same. So I could go with either without making any major changes. Or also the 22RE, which is the fuel injected version. I don't think I'm willing to spend the time and effort to convert that truck to fuel injection right now.
Nah.
But if I got the 22RE engine, the 20R manifolds bolt onto it, so it would be the same thing, just with 2.4 liters of displacement versus 2.2, which is also confusing that the 20R is a 2.2 and the 22R is a 2.4.
Yeah, I would think it'd be a 2 liter
Two
and a
liter and a
2.2.
2.2.
I
Yeah.
feel like we talked about this before
Yeah.
too.
That's an annoying aside. But anyway, so I was chatting with friend of the show and former guest Ron, and he did something that I was afraid to do, and he Googled an engine rebuild kit for the truck.
Right.
I'm sure it's a China made, whatever, but the reviews seem to be good and it seems to work. So there's a
Yeah.
kit. There's a kit that includes all new bearings, all new pistons, all new gaskets, new water pump, new front cover, new timing chain guides, pretty much every wear item on the engine.
Didn't you do all the timing chain stuff?
I did, but the kit comes with everything, and it's
So
$175.
here's something you could do before you buy that kit. Pull the engine out,
Yeah.
put it on a stand,
Yes.
find the specs for the oil clearances,
Yes.
pull the caps off, look at the bearings,
Yep.
and then check them with a plastic gauge. And if the bearings are fine, you don't need to waste time changing them. You don't need to waste money on them. And
So
then,
here's where you're one step ahead of me.
yeah,
That's what I'm doing.
okay.
I ordered an engine hoist and an engine stand.
Okay, because you could also pull the piston out and either unstick the rings or take some careful measurements. And if it is a standard piston size, you could order standard rings for it.
Yes.
And
So the reason that I brought up the kit itself is because the kit is available on Amazon, prime shipping for like $175.
okay,
So the plan is I ordered a engine hoist and an engine stand because I don't have those things here. I had an engine hoist, but it wasn't worth dragging it across country for how cheap they are. I was like,
yeah,
that was
the
given
Harbor Freight one.
that
You
was
just
given
buy it
to
Harbor Freight.
Jordan and Spaghetti. So I ordered an engine hoist and engine stand. I'm going to pull the motor out, and I'm going to do that research before I order anything. Because being a 20R Toyota, the parts are all of that kind of price. Like if all I need to do is buy rings, they're $28.
Exactly.
The lower the crank bearings are, the rod bearings, crank bearings, they're like $3 a piece.
Yeah.
So
But I think I'm of this opinion. I know a lot of people are also of this opinion that if you can keep factory bearings,
because
if they're in good
they're
shape, they're
worn together. Yeah,
typically, well, yeah, they're worn to the crank, but typically the factory stuff is way better than anything you can buy aftermarket.
yeah.
So if you can keep that stuff, if the oil gaps are good, don't touch it.
So I'm still in the trying to keep this thing as cheap as possible mindset. These processes, I'm not counting the engine hoist and engine stand towards the budget of the truck because I'm going to
No,
want
because
those
you'll
here
use that
anyway.
again.
Yeah, I want those no matter what. So any tools bought for this truck aren't counting towards the budget of the truck. So if I can rebuild what needs to be rebuilt in the motor, and worst case scenario, it costs $170, I'm not too terribly worried about anything. So it's just one more thing to just kind of keep myself occupied here, car wise, because I don't have many other projects here. I don't have the budget right now to overhaul the suspension on the Eclipse, which is the only other project I really want to do. So I might as well do this because it's the truck's here, I'm here, and it'll give me something to work on until I have other cars here. So, and it will give me the experience of doing all of this by myself on the ground without a lift. So it should be an interesting project. I don't want to stop. I want to keep moving. And everything is cheap enough that it is what it is, and if I can make the truck run and drive, then we'll assess from there. So that's kind of been the discussion from day one. Originally, I said, if the truck's not running within a month of me getting it, I'm going to get rid of it. I didn't quite hit that goal, but it wasn't quite my fault. I was a little upset about that. But after talking to Naomi and talking to Ron and talking to Brian and talking to everybody else I've talked to about this and you, it's not my fault the truck wasn't running after a month. I didn't have a lot of time to work on it because obviously the coronavirus hit and everything got weird. And then I lost the area where it was being stored at. So it got parked for 2 months somewhere else. And as long as the truck's been somewhere where I can work on it, I've consistently been working on it. And if it wasn't for the fact that it had bad rings, it would be running right now. So,
Well, if it makes you feel better, my kitchen was supposed to be done at the end of April, and now we're into August, and we're almost done. So,
right. The difference is if you
speaking
give
of
up,
missing targets,
if you give up on your kitchen and don't ever finish it, then you don't have a kitchen. If I give up on this truck and don't ever finish it, I have other cars.
this is true.
So it's a little bit different. But that was the whole thing. We had a whole discussion about the changing of Brad's ways and the not becoming the hoarder of junk garbage cars out here as well. Go ahead.
I'm okay with it because you're still working on it.
And that's the general consensus that I got from everybody. Like, it's not like I didn't get it running in a month because I was not working on it for a month. I mean, I wasn't working on it for a couple of months, but because I was in the middle of buying a house and moving, and the truck wasn't available to be worked on because we had to store it away from where it was because of an HOA situation at that house. So anyway, it's here now, and I haven't rested on my laurels at all.
I just realized I had the fan on the background, so I apologize. I shut it off if it comes through the recording.
It's funny. I heard it, and I just figured it was hot there today, so I didn't say anything.
It's a lot cooler, but I don't really need it, so we'll go without it.
The fan is on here.
Tough
Can
it
you
out.
hear it?
No.
Okay. It's a ceiling fan, so I wouldn't think so. But fun fact: we have a I don't know how the utility plans work in most of the country. I only know how they work in Massachusetts and now here in Arizona. But we have a peak time and an off peak time. And off peak is peak time is 3 to 8. So we turn off the air conditioning. So we cool the house all morning and all night, and then turn off the AC from 3 to 8, and then just keep the ceiling fans running to keep it cool in here, and it works. So it's nice.
That seems like a southwestern thing to do because
probably brownouts and whatnot.
Yeah, it gets so hot there, and then from the pictures, it looks like you guys have a lot of tile.
The whole house is tile.
Yeah, so if you get that cold, it'll stay cold for those few hours.
Well, the house is constructed completely of cement block with a poured concrete floor and tile, and then it has all brand new, high efficiency windows, and we have those 2 huge trees in the front yard that shade the whole front of the house. So it stays pretty nice in here. It's been an interesting experiment trying to see what the best way to do it is, but I've heard of some people out here having $300, $400, $500 electric bills in the summertime because it's running the AC all the time, trying to keep a house that's sitting in Phoenix 115-degree sun all day is not always efficient. But
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, this house has had enough upgrades and stuff that I'd be surprised if ours was $100. So that's good. Anyway, way off topic, auto off topic time. Back to cars. Project car updates. Engines coming out of the truck. The head's off. Um, I'm just going to do it right. I'm going to send the head out and just have it cleaned and checked to make sure there's nothing I'm missing obvious. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I might as well at this point. It doesn't cost much to send it to a machine shop, have them clean it, have them plane it down a little bit, make sure it's nice and flat, and there's no issues. So I'll do it right. And at the end of the day, if I hate the truck and everything falls apart, then I have a brand new 20R and maybe I go out and find an old Celica, put it in or something.
There you go.
So that's the plan. That's the Project Car updates.
Sounds good.
Yeah, nothing else. I think I already talked about buying new tires for the Volkswagen, so we can skip that.
Mm-hmm.
I drove the Eclipse for the first time in since I moved here into this house, so that was exciting. But yeah, nothing good project car wise.
Is it in the garage there?
Oh yeah,
Nice.
yeah. That was the first thing I did. The first day we got the keys to the house, I backed the Eclipse in the garage, and it's pretty much sat there ever since. It'll be out this weekend because we're doing the floor, the seal coat on the floor.
Oh, okay.
So we've been waiting to do that because we need to have a time when it's under 90 degrees.
Oh,
And it hasn't been under 90 degrees for a couple weeks. So it's supposed to be low of 80s for this weekend. So we'll be able to do it early in the morning. Get it prepped Friday night. Put the first coat on Saturday
you're not
morning.
doing the fleck in it, are you?
I'm on the fence.
It's a tough call because I've worked in spaces that have it, and when you drop something, it's like nearly impossible to find it
Right.
because it just camouflages it.
Right.
It doesn't really add any traction. It's like purely for design aesthetic.
Yeah, it hides imperfections. That's the
It
big
does.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
The only reason
kinda like-
I was considering not doing it, so the garage has all three walls and the door are white.
right.
And the floor, I got the lightest colored one. And I figured that if I didn't do it, it would also double as almost like a photo studio for doing photos and videos of all the projects that we work on here.
There you go.
And the flecked floor might take away a little from that, but it'll also make it look nicer in video because it will hide any imperfections in the floor.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
it's tricky.
It's a tough call.
The other
I've been
thing I like
watching a
to
bunch of
do-
videos, so
When you drop something on a floor like that, grab a flashlight. And even though like everything's lit up, for some reason having that flashlight sweeping it over the floor,
yeah, it catches a
the
glint.
light will catch the glint of the bolt
Yep.
or like create a shadow, and it like makes it easier to find. I found.
Well, I'm not. I'm on the fence. I think I'm probably going to go with it, but I'm. I don't know. Tune in next week and find out because I'll be doing it this weekend. Project Car update will be Project Garage update next week. So
Yeah, I think when I'm done using my garage as a staging area for kitchen stuff, before I put the cars back in, I'll probably try to seal the floor. Probably paint. It's concrete walls. Probably try to paint
Yep.
them, do something cool with them. Just kind of finish it out a little more.
yeah, the main problem with the garage here is that it's small.
Right.
It's a 2-car garage, but it's a converted carport. So
Yeah.
like the Eclipse is not a very big car.
No.
And it's almost front to back full. Like a lot of bigger cars won't fit in here. Like my Camaro wouldn't fit in this garage. So part of the reason we're building another garage out back eventually, but like the Sapporo will fit, the Eclipse will fit, which are the cars that are here. So that's fine. But yeah, a much bigger car won't fit. I do know that Naomi's Hyundai Sonata, it's an 11 Sonata, so it's like 17 feet long or something like that, 16 and a half feet long.
Good size car.
That just fits if she takes off her bike rack in the back. So, but like just fits. So it's not a very big space, but it's big enough for what I need for now, and it's going to be nice and brightly lit, and it'll be a good little workshop. So, anyway, moving on. No more project car updates. What's our topic today, Andrew?
Well, before we get to that, I did launch a new dirt rally championship for
Oh,
those playing
excellent.
along. It'll go live Friday, July 24th at noontime. 6 events, 8 stages apiece.
Still long.
I It's pretty long. It's
Yeah.
hardcore. Um, I If you've ever set one of these up in the menu of it, it's like the menu's super annoying. I doubled up accidentally on the New England event, but whatever. I It's gonna be H2 rear wheel drive, H2 front wheel drive, and H3 rear wheel drive cars, and they change every event. So that'll be a surprise for you.
It's interesting.
Uh, yeah, just to change it up so nobody gets too comfortable with one type of car, because we've got quite a few ringers in our group that are like really good at it.
I'm a ringer too. I ring the car around a tree every time I play.
That's right.
Yeah.
I haven't played in a while. I haven't played since my shifter had broken. I don't think I talked about that. My shifter broke again.
For the Logitech
Like,
wheel.
yeah, well, it's not the Logitech part that broke. It's the aftermarket part I got to make it feel better and shift better that broke. And
Okay.
it's a company, 3D Wrap. They're an Italian company. They 3D print this. Basically, it's this thing that goes over the shifter, and it's got these. It's like a gate that slides on these two things that follows the shifter. It basically gives it detents to make it feel like you're in first gear, neutral, like second gear, like as you go through the gears. Like it gives it stops and detents and kind of stiffens it up a little bit. When you buy the base kit of it, it comes with the 3D printed surround, a flat plastic cutout of a gate, the 3D printed detent part, and it's basically like these two like plastic tubes. They're almost like PVC pipe, like very very tiny PVC pipe, and all the screws to put it together. And the ends of the gate part they broke like twice. It's a wear item because I guess it will wear out after a while because there's friction from the detent part. So they already sent me like two of those because they broke. And then I was playing dirt, flipping from second to third using the shifter because I just find it's more enjoyable that way. I didn't realize that. I didn't think I was shifting that hard. I went to upshift into third and it broke the gate. The plastic shattered. Um, and then also broke the detent thing again. So I was just like, bummer. I like posted it on Instagram. I didn't even send it to the company this time. I was like, whatever, I don't care. They messaged me, were like, can you email us? We'll help you out. I was like, okay, cool. So they actually sell as an upgrade an aluminum shift gate. So it looks like a Ferrari shifter with a gated aluminum thing now.
Okay.
So they sent me that and like some more spare of the little detent things. And like we were playing Forza the other night with some friends. It definitely feels stronger having the aluminum in there. It like really makes it solid. So
Excellent.
that's why I stopped playing dirt, was because it had broken, and then it took a while to get it fixed because they had to ship the aluminum part from Italy.
Well, I played in a different event last week. Um,
Yeah, I forgot about it and just didn't get to it.
I have had a marked improvement in my driving in the game. I don't. I'm not the last back marker anymore. I'm usually somewhere in the middle. So that's been a big improvement for me. So I still don't have a steering wheel set up. I'm still playing with the controller. It's just been a bit of a learning curve for that. So I'm excited to do our next event, and hopefully I can not embarrass us by having the slowest time in our own event.
It's such a punishing game because just when you think you're getting it, you start to go a little bit faster, and then you're off in the trees,
Yeah.
and you're done.
You
So
don't get
it's
a
like,
second chance.
no.
And that's part of my problem is that for my entire video game playing career, anytime you're trying to beat a time or be the fastest, you hit restart, and I can't restart. And
Yeah.
I guess I've leaned on that more than I knew.
Mm-hmm. So that's all set to go. I think the last one I said I'd send them a keychain. I think we'll postpone that. We'll say for this one, whoever wins the whole thing, I'll send you a keychain.
Sweet.
That's the other thing. We do have some like new merchandise that we just hadn't launched yet. It's a little teaser. I've got some keychains
Yeah,
and a
some
couple new stickers.
we have some hats being
Yeah,
being
So when
worked
we get
on.
all that stuff in, we're gonna do a big thing about merchandise.
Well, the
So
problem is that we were very disappointed by the T-shirts we got the first time. We didn't
yeah,
get samples sent to us first. They were from that T-shirt company that when you ordered them directly from them, and
they're like print to order, and they were
yeah,
the quality varied
the
widely.
quality varied way too much, and we were kind of embarrassed that we put our name on those. So we're trying to make sure our merchandise is much better this time. So we'll hopefully have some
Yeah,
good stuff coming soon. I have personally seen the pins and the keychains, and they are most excellent.
yeah,
So, and the hats are being made by a family member, so they should be perfect.
yep,
So, we'll see what happens. But there is some stuff coming. I'm very excited for that.
yep. There sure is. So some big news lately. We talked about the Bronco last week, so we're not going to talk about. We talked about it at length, so we're not going to talk about it this time.
I
The other
wanted to
stuff
come
that
back at it a
started.
little bit, though. Actually, now that you're reminding
Okay,
me of it,
all right, fair enough.
couple of quick things. We both said that we wanted a base model,
I
and we
want a
wanted
Sasquatch
to
though.
build up from the base model. But the problem is the base model doesn't come with all of the off-road stuff that you'd want.
It doesn't,
No. So I want the
but you could
slightly
probably get.
above base model.
Yeah, you could probably get takeoffs though. Like we said,
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of people modifying these things, so the aftermarket for grabbing the factory stuff. Well, not the aftermarket, but the used market for grabbing the factory stuff probably be pretty strong. Like you'd grab if you had a WRX, you'd grab STI parts when somebody would upgrade their STI, stuff like
Yep.
that.
Well, I think the problem is that the differentials are not going to be locked differentials in the base truck.
No, you got to get the
Uh,
Sasquatch package.
yeah. So that's the problem with buying the base truck.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's all. I wanted to update that a little bit. We've learned a little more. The base truck is almost good, but not quite there.
So the other big part of news that was really hitting people, a 8,000 mile 88 BMW M3, so an E30 M3, excuse me, sold for $250,000 on Bring a Trailer.
Yeah, that is $250,000.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
an absurd amount of money.
it is a lot of money. I mean, the car is very, very nice. It's basically a showroom, brand new M3. Um,
This reminded me of another auction that recently happened on Bring a Trailer, though.
yeah. So I believe this is the most expensive E30 M3 that's ever sold, it seems like.
Yeah, I can't imagine
Um,
there's been one for more.
like, it's kind of crazy. Like, I guess
Swoop.
if you really want the nicest example possible of this car, then this is the one.
So we've discussed Bring a Trailer auction results before, and I'm sorry we're going to do it again because it's one of those time periods right now where there's some weird stuff happening. I think the first time we saw something like this particular car was in January of this year when
Yeah.
that 21,000 mile Datsun Z car sold,
Yeah.
and that car sold for $310,000, which didn't make any sense to anybody. And the conversation piece that you always hear people talking about is, yeah, it's $300,000, but you don't get a $300,000 driving experience. With the M3, you don't get a $250,000 driving experience. It doesn't matter though, because these aren't real numbers. This isn't even real money. The kind of person that can spend $250,000 on an M3 doesn't have to worry about spending $250,000 on an M3. It's not like a normal average American saying 250 grand, I need a 30-year mortgage to buy a house. Like it's a very different place. It's not a $250,000 driving experience, but it's also not going to be driven, so it doesn't matter.
No, it can never be driven because
Yeah.
it will never be worth. This is as much as it will. Well, it will appreciate, but only if it stays at this mileage, basically forever.
Yeah. Every mile you drive that car is probably a $10,000 hit in value.
Yeah.
Like
So that's the problem with a car like this.
yeah.
It's a record-setting car, but the reality check is of it that it's a car that somebody throws in their garage under like, museum lights, and then they can go out and dust it off, maybe sit in it. I don't know. Maybe you trailer it
Yeah,
to a show.
it's parked in a living room somewhere.
Yeah,
It's not a real car. It's no longer a car. It's now a piece of art.
it's a showpiece.
So this isn't the
Um,
first time this has happened either. This is just new to us in the world of cars that we're used to. It's starting to really take off on stuff that we care about, which is weird.
well, yeah, because you would never consider before that an E30 M3 would have been a blue chip collector car.
No, no, not even at all. I remember the first time I saw, a late '60s, early '70s Nissan Skyline sell for $100,000. It was like, wow, this is absurd that somebody's paying $100,000 for this car that has kind of flown under the radar for its entire life. But you need to remember, and I don't know how many times on this podcast we've harped about nostalgia and 30-year cycles and the people who have the money now didn't have the money then. That whole thing is all part of this. I don't know who bought this BMW. I don't know if it's a collector that we've heard of or we know, or if it's just somebody who's been a collector of, your normal, to put it, differently, at your normal collector cars for years, and has just seen this trend and said, I'm going to get on the leading edge of this trend. But I mean, this happened in the '90s with muscle cars. They started hitting numbers that just didn't make sense to people who'd been into them for their entire lives. The fact that somebody would pay $11 million for a 1970 Barracuda convertible is
Mm-hmm.
still something that doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather pay $250,000 for an E30 M3 at that point, like.
Yeah.
So there's still room to grow in this market, and I think that's something that you and I and 99.9% of the collector car or the '70s, '80s car world aren't ready for. We're not ready for this market to explode, and maybe the person that bought that car for 250 grand is thinking about that, $11 million Barracuda heavy convertible and saying, someday this car is going to be that car. And I'm going to take my $250,000 investment and make $10 million. Because who's to say it won't? If somebody said the day before that Barracuda sold for $11 million, if somebody said, you're going to get $11 million for that car, hey, somebody would have said, I'm not taking that bet. Like, where is the ceiling? How do we find that ceiling? And do we even really care?
No, I don't. I don't know. Does it matter?
Yeah. Like, we're going to talk about it because it's interesting. But at the end of the day, it goes completely out of our purview of things that actually matter to us. Like, you and I will always care what a 1988 BMW 330i is worth, because that's a car that you or I might actually buy someday. Maybe I want an E30. Maybe I'll buy a 330, CI or whatever the desirable one is. I think it's a CI, right? I don't know my BMWs. Sorry, BMW people. But we will always care about that number. But we're not going to care about what the most perfect 1988 330 CI with 8,000 miles on it goes for, because that's not the car we're going to buy anyway. If we stumble onto that car and we buy it for a bargain price, sure. But I think those days are behind us. I personally owned a 1984 RX-7 that I bought with 32,000 miles on it. I think I paid $3,000 for it
Yeah.
in 2009, 2008, somewhere along there.
Yeah, something like that.
That car today is
$15,000 car, right?
with the low. If it still had 32,000 miles on it, it'd probably be a $25,000 car.
That's crazy.
It just doesn't. Stumbling onto those things, I don't think is a thing. Do I wish I held onto it and I could put it on Bring a Trailer now? In hindsight, sure, but again, much like we're talking about, we don't know what's going to happen with this BMW in 10 years. I had no idea of knowing that the vintage Japanese car market was going to explode like it did. To me, I bought the car for $3,000. I put a couple bucks into it. I sold it for $4,000. I probably about broke even. And I felt good
Yeah.
I felt good at the time breaking even. And I said, someday I'll buy another one. There's plenty out there. And to replicate that car now, I would never do that. It goes back to when I bought an almost brand new Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. I traded it in with 36,000 miles on it, and I got 19 grand. That car
Yeah.
with 36,000 miles on it on Bring a Trailer now is probably 45 or 50. A 100,000 mile car is 19 grand now.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
and that's my problem is I can't bring myself to spend $19,000 on a 100,000 mile car when I traded mine in for 19 grand with 36,000 miles on it. Like, it's really hard as a car enthusiast who's in it more for the love of the car and not the love of the dollar to justify these things. I'm not that well-to-do guy that can just not think about it and drop money. I spend $40 on something, I think about it. It's like, it's just, that's the world we live in. That's what makes us normal middle class people. We can't even look at these cars with anything other than a wow, that really happened kind of notion. A $70,000 Civic. Did you see that one last week?
Yeah, the SI.
Yeah, no, the Type R in Japan. So
Oh,
an EK9 Type R, black with the red Recaros, and it had 8 or 9 thousand miles on it, and it sold through auction in Japan, and it went for $71,000.
hmm.
And honestly, that's probably well bought.
Yeah.
That car will come to the States and it'll get sold at a Barrett Jackson like auction or on Bring a Trailer, and it'll probably bring 20 to 30 grand more than that without even waiting any time.
Yeah.
So it's just, that whole world is just it's such a whole different place where we don't play that game. We don't care about these. We care about them, but we also don't care about these mint perfect blue chip cars that are never going to get used and driven. I want to get in a car, and I said it 1,000 times. I want to get in the car and I want to drive it across the country. And
All right. So speaking of a drivable car that went for a surprising amount of money here.
yes, now we're going to start getting
In my
angry.
wheelhouse. A 1990 Mitsubishi Montero 5-speed. It's a long wheelbase car
Yep.
in a 5-speed, which is kind of rare because it's an RS, but it also had the off-road package because it had the gauges and the headlight squirters.
So
So it means it has a bouncy seat.
bouncy seat and probably limited slip differential.
Yes. But it started
many
life as an
miles?
RS, not an LS. 80,000 miles on it.
Okay. It was a clean truck.
California car.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, California car. Then when it was sold, it's in Las Vegas. So looking at the pictures, super clean, no sun damage. It's like light metallic blue on the blue interior. Pretty looking truck. Very, very nice condition. It sold in Bring a Trailer for $14,500,
Right.
which is mind blowing.
Those are Toyota Land Cruiser prices.
Yes.
I'm sure that looking at this truck selling for 14,500, what does that mean the equivalent Land Rover would have sold, a Land Cruiser would have sold for? 35?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, people have slept on these for a while. They're kind of coming up. They've got that look of the boxy chrome bumper 4x4, good on-road manners.
Yeah, they're every bit as capable and every bit as usable as a Land Cruiser.
Yep.
All I know is the longer I go not selling mine, the more money it's going to cost somebody to buy it now.
Sure.
It's now $501.
Brad knows what he has. No low balls.
It's gone from 500 to 501 with this auction result.
Okay.
No, not a penny less. No, the truck is very nice. I'm shocked to see it sell for 14,500. This goes back to us buying your truck 5 years ago, when we were pissed at the end that we spent $800. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, yours wasn't as nice as this, but it was every bit as capable of driving as this vehicle is. It had a couple of dings and dents, but it wasn't. To the average layperson who saw both vehicles, they saw your $800 Montero and they saw this $14,500 Montero. They probably wouldn't have batted an eye that one was, that much more money than the first one. One was 14,000 times the money yours was, or 14 times the money yours was. It wouldn't trip anybody up. Nobody's gonna look at this truck and go, "That guy paid a lot of money for that," and look at your old truck and go, "That guy has no money." They're gonna look at both trucks and go, "That guy has no money."
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how much you pay. And now again, the same thing happens with this vehicle. 14,500. You have the nicest, lowest mile, long wheelbase Montero in existence. What do you do with it? Do you go off roading with it?
You could drive it. I mean, it's got 80,000 miles on it.
Yeah, but do you take it off in the desert and get your desert pinstripes on the side? Do you park it in the wintertime? Obviously. I mean,
I don't know. I mean,
do you
what
deck it out with a
the
camper truck? Like, what do you do with it? There's this. Where do you
what,
go from here when you pay 14 grand for a Montero?
what do you do with these super expensive, you know, Land Cruisers and stuff? So
Yeah, I guess it's strange to me. I will say that if you go on Bring a Trailer and search 1990 Montero 5-speed and look at the truck, it is a very nice truck. It is the only other one I've ever seen that has the factory Mitsubishi brush guard on it that I have. So that's neat to see. But I don't know. We started this podcast 3 years ago.
right,
It was centered around $800 old cars.
this is true.
In 3 years, those $800 old cars are no longer $800 old cars.
No, even to buy a decent old car now, you gotta spend. It's more than $1,000. It's like
You're not
$1,500.
I'd say
It's
more.
like
I'd say it's more than
the
that now.
$800 car is now the $1,500 car.
Yeah, and the $2,500 car is now the $5,000 or $6,000 car.
Yeah,
The world has changed quickly in the 3 years we've been doing this, and we went from just talking about old junk cars to still talking about old junk cars, but now having to spend money on them. And I don't like it.
yep.
My own personal income hasn't gone up that much in the past 3 years to change the value of the vehicles I like that much. So we're now having to change the way we buy things. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to be cognizant a bit about resale if you don't plan on keeping the car forever.
Yeah. So
which I am getting to the point where I kind of have two cars that I want forever, and then anything else I get is something that will most likely kind of cycle through unless I truly like it, like a lot.
Well, did you see the Montero that sold on Bring a Trailer about a month ago?
No.
The Montero Sport.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was like just a ho hum, like 2003 Sport or something, right?
So 2001 Montero Sport.
Yep.
It was an automatic V6 that they all are, 4-wheel drive. 71,000 miles.
Yeah.
What do you think the truck sold for? What's a Montero Sport worth?
Oh, even with 70,000 miles on it, it's like a $4,000 truck.
Yeah, it sold for $8,500.
Yeah, which is wild.
So there's something in the water at every house that reads Bring a Trailer, and I don't know what it is, but it must be cash, because the money that's being spent on these vehicles here it makes no actual sense. It's at the point I think it's just a money laundering operation. I don't even know what's going on over there anymore.
Well, that is speculation.
Yeah,
do not take that as fact.
Well, no, obviously I'm not saying that as a fact. It seems so strange just seeing these strange numbers and looking at these two Monteros. It opened my eyes to search a little more deep into Bring a Trailer, and I started looking at some of the more common vehicles.
Yeah, that Jeep that you're telling me about.
Multiple Jeeps. It's not even that one Jeep. I mean, again, I'm not a Jeep person. I don't know what Jeeps are worth. But a 2003 Wrangler X. X is the base model. It doesn't get lower than that. I think the only option in this vehicle is like alloys and a straight six.
Right.
It only has 11,000 miles on it, but it's also an '03 Jeep. It's not an antique car. And it just sold this week. Actually, it ended today for $25,500 on Bring a Trailer.
Yeah, that is really, really bizarre to me and kind of red flaggy. Like, who spent that much money on that? Like, the difference between an '03 Jeep and like a new Jeep, like the '03 Jeeps, honestly, not very good vehicles.
Yeah, they're not
Not
great.
very good for 20. They were barely worth $25,000 when you bought them brand new,
Yeah,
and now 15 years on, 17 years on, where you can buy a new Jeep Wrangler, which is probably much better than that one for almost the same money. Like that's kind of crazy.
yeah. And this is
Like
this is a half door soft top Jeep. It's not even like the full doors and hard tops that are worth a couple grand on their own. Like it's there's nothing to redeem this Jeep to make it $25,000 other than the mileage. It's almost like people on Bring a Trailer are only concerned about one thing. They don't care what the vehicle is. They don't care what the history of the car is. They only care if it's got a clean title and if it's got no miles on it. And that makes your vehicle worth tons of money.
well, that to me is when like growing up, I kind of forgot about this. That was like the thing that if a car had low mileage, that was like what made it worth money.
Sure.
I don't know.
But what makes a Jeep worth money? I went back after seeing that Jeep sell today. I went back into the history of Jeeps that have sold on Bring a Trailer, and they sold one that ended 2 months ago. Same thing. It's a pretty base model Jeep. Oh no, this is a Rubicon. Excuse me. So it's top of the line Jeep, but it's got
Okay.
155,000 miles on it.
All right.
2003.
Okay.
155,000 miles.
That's like a high school kid car.
It's got a broken fog light. It's got curb rash on the wheels. It's a soft top, soft door Jeep.
Be like a $3,000 truck on Craigslist.
Right. It sold on Bring a Trailer for $9,500
Yeah, I can't imagine that the Jeep tax is that much on a like a middle of the road
on a common
age
vehicle.
range
Yeah.
Jeep.
I mean, again,
Like
it is a Rubicon, but that generation Rubicon wasn't anything beyond heavy duty axles and lockers.
yeah, and if it was like a
And
classic
the last
Jeep,
line of the auction, corrosion is noted on underside. Like, I, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand the bring a trailer mentality. Um, it just, I used to love bring a trailer. I used to look at it every day, but it's now come to a point where I'm looking at it more as why versus anything else. So there's another 21,000 mile Jeep in '04. This isn't unlimited, so it's the long wheelbase, also a soft top with an automatic with 21,000 miles, sold for $23,500.
yeah, I mean, if people can message us if there's something specific that those particular Jeeps are really good at that enthusiasts want and we're not aware of, like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it. So I started looking deeper into Bring a Trailer after that. There's another Montero on there right now.
Yeah.
It has one bid or two bids,
Yep.
and it's at $4,600.
Yeah. It's 150,000 miles short wheelbase, 4-cylinder, completely stock,
Yeah,
torn front seats. It has probably a $2,000 wrap on it to make it look like the Dakar truck,
yep,
but it's not any type of Dakar edition. Like that was never a thing.
right. It's just somebody did it
The
in
wrap
the
looks
driveway.
cool. Like I'd do it to a short wheelbase if I had it. In fact, there was a long wheelbase that ran the Lemons Rally. That was a really nice truck that they did up in the Nikon livery.
Yep.
And it was very cool because they drove it all over Colorado. But that was like a $2,000 truck they dressed up. So,
Yep.
but anyway, yeah, this
Doesn't
one
make any sense.
first bid
Yeah.
$4,600, like literally top of the market for that truck.
Yeah. And the only thing I can think of is the person who bid on it. His name is like Toyota's Only or something, his username. So he's probably used to spending 15 grand for a Land Cruiser in the same condition and was like, oh, I'll get 4 grand and see what it's all about. So,
Yeah, I guess.
but now looking at this truck, my truck is now $502.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's
We'll
going
throw
up
some
every.
stripes on it. We'll get you $505.
We'll put the stripes right over the rust holes.
Yeah.
Nobody will even know. So anyway, Without going too much deeper into this and being annoyed by it, I started looking to see what the best deal I could find on Bring a Trailer was.
Right.
Um, we've talked about these cars a lot lately. Not on the podcast, I don't think. I think you and I just had conversations in person about old Alphas.
Yeah.
And Alpha sold today on Bring a Trailer a 74 Alpha GTV. So the two door, the one that, competed in SCCA, sedan racing with the 510s,
Yeah.
the
It's
one
a
that did all the
very pretty
rallies and
car.
stuff. Very pretty cars. Running, driving California car. Minor modifications, Panasport style wheels, springs, sway bars, twin carbs. Total mileage unknown. Upgraded 5-speed. Nice looking car. No rust anywhere. Now, do you know the market on these cars?
I don't.
So they're 40 to 100 grand depending on options and condition.
Okay.
This one sold for $14,500. Sold.
Weird. Is it the unknown mileage?
It has
And
a salvage title. But a 1974 Alfa Romeo GTV with a salvage title shouldn't be half the value of the car in this case. Because
weird.
when this car, in 1995, if this car got in a fender bender, it was totaled. It could
Right.
it could have needed a door. No structural damage. The car was repaired correctly. It was actually what happened, according to the story, was hitting the rear. And it needed a new deck lid and a taillight panel,
Mm-hmm.
which is not structural. It's not frame. Everything checks out in the car. The car sold for $14,500. I would definitely buy that car for $14,500,
Yeah.
salvage title or not. There's no reason it went that cheap, but that just shows you the mentality of the Bring a Trailer buyer. If it's not that perfect car, generally it doesn't sell for as much as it should, except for that Jeep for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then the other thing
the car has some questionable modifications. It has like XR racing floor mats, which are obviously a Pep Boy special. It's got Panasport style wheels, but they're Rotas, which are obviously a questionable choice. But the car is there, and it wouldn't take much to make this car very, very, very nice.
Hmm.
And I think that at 14 grand, even with a salvage title, this car is gonna be double with maybe another 3 or 4 grand thrown at it. It'd be worth 30 to 35.
All right. Now, another interesting car that sold this week. 34,000 mile 1992 Plymouth Laser RS Turbo Automatic.
Oh yeah, right
34,000 miles.
back to our Mitsubishis. So this is a Laser, so the least desirable. It's a front wheel drive and an automatic. It is a turbo though, correct? It's an RS.
RS Turbo.
Okay.
I wouldn't say least desirable, just least common.
Okay.
They just have a different style to them. Like, they're not as gaudy as the Eclipses or the Talons because they
Yeah,
didn't have like the wide body kit on the lower half of the car.
Yeah, they're definitely more subtle.
They're more subtle. Sold for 10.8, which I think is an excellent price for that car. That's what that car should be worth.
It's more than I would pay for an automatic.
It is,
But the
but if
front-
you're looking for the nicest collector version of this car,
Yeah. The front wheel drive doesn't bother me as much as the automatic does in that car because it takes away so much from that car. Yeah, I have a front wheel drive DSM and a non-turbo DSM. I'd rather have a front wheel drive non-turbo manual than a front wheel drive turbo automatic.
but then I went back and looked at the history. A teal one with a 5-speed that I believe had 50,000 miles on it, sold in 2017 for $5,000.
So again, that's our 3 years.
Yeah,
That's that
Wild,
literally that 3 years we're talking about from when we started this podcast when that car was a $5,000 car to here we are today. If that car was a manual, I bet it would have gone for even more money too.
yeah.
It's I don't know what's happening to the world of collector cars, or people are just starting to pay attention to cars that we care about. We started this whole segment probably about a year ago, I'd say, right, with the Starion Conquest Market Watch.
Yeah,
It's kind of when we started this whole thing, and we were blown away by a couple of low mile, high dollar Starion Conquests. But at the same time, looking at the history of Starion Conquests that were $3 to $5 grand, they're a consistently $10,000 car now.
I mean, I like talking about car values. It's interesting. It's interesting to our listeners, I think. One of the things, because I've been looking for a 142 Volvo, and the market on those is hugely, like, there's a huge swing in
Yeah.
price. Um, I've seen some that aren't that great for like 3 to 4 grand. Ones that are like complete garbage that are like $500. Um, there was a super nice one that was 4 grand in California. Guy never got back to me. Um,
That would have
and
been the
then
one.
there's a really nice one in Texas right now, but it's like $7,500.
Right. So it's top of the market.
Yeah, but it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, it's just cars have it's just changed so much in the past 3 years. It's crazy to think about the beginning of our podcast recording to now. There's been that much of a swing in prices on cars that we care about. So
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's in general. We've talked about this before. Car prices, you know, uh, obviously, I've said this before. My Talon was a 10-year-old car when I bought it. It was $1,300. A 10-year-old car now is not $1,300.
no, it's definitely not. I bought my Volkswagen for $10,000, and it was a 7-year-old car. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, granted, it was like your car was in running condition. The Talon needed some work to make it drivable, but you know, it only needed like $1,000 worth of parts.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what's kind of crazy, right? Um, I don't know. It
Yeah.
is what
No,
it
it's
is.
strange. Very strange.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. I think
Yeah.
that sounds like a good podcast.
Excellent.
So don't forget, we've got a new dirt rally championship up there. You can go mess around with that, crash, throw your controller across the room, smash your steering wheel, whatever floats your boat. I'll try not to break my shifter again. It's like dirt rally clubs. I forget.
Something like that. I can
But
pull it up real quick in front of me right now.
yeah, if you go in there, you'll search our club. It's auto off topic. Just send me a message that you applied, and then I have to go in there because I don't get any alerts from it. So you need to send me a message if you apply for it, and I will go in there and I will approve you, and then you'll have access to the rally. So just go ahead and do that. You can either message me on off topic page or message me personally, and I'll set you up with that. So you can follow us on Auto Off Topic Podcast on Facebook, Auto Off Topic on Instagram, Auto Off Topic on Twitter. We haven't played much in there, just been like reading people's stuff. And follow me on Instagram, Raced in Anger. And Brad, where can they follow you?
They can find me on Instagram at TSISS350.
All right, cool. Sounds great. As always, keep cars analog and aim for the roses.